What happens when law, business, and life collide? Each week on Lead Counsel, your host Tom Tona will take a deep dive into topics related to the law, the business of law, and life. There will be insightful discussions with industry insiders, experts, and thought leaders making significant contributions and meaningful differences in their fields of expertise. Tom is the founder and managing attorney at TonaLaw. He has been a practicing attorney since 1994 and the leader of TonaLaw since it opened in 2001. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with free information on law and the business of law, and to give you actionable tools related to each of these areas. Now, here's Tom.
Welcome to the Lead Counsel Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Tona. I'm here with Juliet. Homie, Juliet.
What's up, everybody? I'm excited for this episode.
Yeah, me too. So today's episode is about a concept I call needle movers.
Can you define for everybody what a needle mover is?
Sure. So in the simplest terms, a needle mover is any action item that can be taken or next step that can be taken that moves the needle quicker or closer or both to a set goal that you have, right? So business goals, financial goals, personal goals, right? Once you have your goal identified, there are needle movers that you can recognize and take advantage of when they're happening, and also focus on finding the needle movers. So for instance, earlier, we have a needle mover meeting in the office, right? So from a business perspective, my job is to identify the top 20% of the cases that will probably drive 80% of the revenue. And that is just based on the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where you spend your time, your focus. So we do these meetings. What are the largest files in the office? Because those are the ones that should get the most time, not the smallest, not the most challenging, not the most squeaky wheel clients. It's the largest cases in terms of potential outcomes for the clients and the legal fees attached to them. Those are the needle movers. And we have a standing needle mover meeting in our office every Monday morning for a half an hour to say, not only what are the needle movers, what is the last action step that we had planned, and has it been progressing forward, right? So plans without accountability are useless. And I think that just as important as identifying the needle movers is working on them regularly, right? Yeah. So I think it's extremely important, because what you focus on is what you end up producing. And if you're not planning and you're not focusing and you're too busy doing work, you're not going to end up anywhere other than where life takes you, other than if you sat down and do a written plan. We've talked about this. You and I have talked about this even in your personal life, right?
Yeah,
so
all the time.
Needle movers, for instance, could be people in your life, relationships. Some of the biggest needle movers in my life are relationship driven. They could be action steps that you have to take. So for instance, in a case that's in litigation, it might be, okay, the next step we need to take is one of the more critical. We need to spend money to get a animation done on this accident, and it's a 7-figure case. Well, yeah, we're going to do that step. That's going to move the needle closer to the recovery for the client. In your personal life, needle movers are all around. So I'm a huge fan of that term. I use it all the time. I'm going to break things out into different categories, right? And I'll give you my top needle movers in whatever categories you want to go over. But career is different from business, right? The business aspect of what I do is different from my career as a lawyer. Now I've moved into 100% entrepreneurship as a business owner, right? And I have a team of attorneys and a team of paralegals and legal assistants. And, we're growing very rapidly. So in my business, the biggest needle mover by far was establishing my core values for my business, which then established the culture here. The culture in this law firm is something I work on every day. Probably 30 to 50% of my time goes to building, fortifying, protecting the firm culture, because the team is what got me to this point, and the team is what will get me to my next goal along the way, right? So my absolute number one needle mover that I am completely obsessed with is culture.
Yep.
Culture is everything. I can talk about it forever.
And you do.
And I do.
Yeah, all the time. What advice would you give somebody to help them identify their needle movers in their life?
Okay. One, you got to have a plan. You got to have a written plan, not on the computer, not on the phone. Take out a pen. I know all the Gen Zs and the millennials are probably not even sure what a pen is, but take out a pen and write down your plan. Where do you want to be in 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years? Because you sure as shit ain't going to get there if you don't write it down. Okay, now you wrote it down. Now, what are the steps? What do you see happening? So at the 1 year mark, what did you do that got you there in 1 year? At the 3 year mark, what did you do? What momentum did you build? What were your steps? And in trying to identify the needle movers, say, who's currently in my life? Who are the needle? Do I have needle mover relationships or do I not? Do I have people that move the needle in the other direction? Right? So, and if you do, you better get them the hell out of your life. Right? And that alone, that simple act alone will be a needle mover. Once you clean up your inner circle and you realize that it's really a binary analysis when it comes to studying people in your life, that they either add to your progress, success, and happiness, or they detract from your progress, your success, and happiness, your life gets infinitely better. You map out the steps and then you say, well, who can help me achieve my goals? Who's rooting for me? Right? And what action steps can I take that will move the needle fastest and the biggest towards the goal? And that could be anything. The needle movers are there if your eyes are open to it. And I'm a big fan of writing out a plan, studying the plan, writing down the steps, writing down who, what, when, where, and why is involved in getting to the goal that you think you need. So thank you for tuning into the Lead Counsel podcast. I'm Tom Tona, and I'm here with Jules. And I had a great time doing this. I hope that people enjoy it as much as we did. You can find us anywhere that they have podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify. And please like us, download us, and give us a 5-star review. Share us with your friends, your family, etc. And we're out. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.